Hey folks, yeah, we're finally back after it being 2 or 3 weeks. I just had other things going on, working on my truck and not having a lot of ambition. But me and Lady, we're back. She's gonna keep me some company. Isn't that right, Lady? No, we're just gonna lay down here and take a nap, she says. So anyways, we got some other things we need to do on this tractor. I discovered there's another tiny little oil leak that needs to get fixed. This thing has got a what they call a load bar that this carriage, the hitch carriage, is pinned through the bottom of the case through this what they call a load shaft. And for tractors that's got the 3-point on it, the bottom arms would hook right in here. And where this goes through the bottom of the case, there's a seal right there on both sides that needs to be replaced, and I can't replace it unless I drop all that down. You can see that load bar down there in the bottom of the case that runs that away. So we got to remove that. So I'm going to relocate these jack stands up here. Put that one there. I think we will put this one excuse me. Excuse me. We'll try to put that one right there. And we will gently set this down on them. I'll put you back here on the tripod. Excuse me, Lady. So how this is all put under there, I mean, it's got that pin there, but then if you crawl under here and look, it's all, this whole carriage is tied together at one point by a pin right here. I don't plan on removing that pin, because when I drive this out, and I don't know why they designed this way, but this just sits inside of that. So my plan is to remove this. There's 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 It's 8 bolts. I can remove this piece off of there, and then that'll free this up on both sides, and then I can just let this whole thing down with the jack. It'll just pivot down out of my way, I hope. We'll see. So I'm just going to put y'all on fast forward, Jaden, give them some nice music to listen to, and we're just going to get to work. When I get that done, I think I'll get busy. I've got the parts to go in this diff. One piece of this diff, these are the new parts, they're just sitting in there right now, but this has got it developed a little ledge in there whenever that stuff come apart. So I'm going to take my drill with the little Dremel tool. I'm going to remove that burr that's in there that's keeping this won't slide all the way up through there because of that burr. So I'll get that burr removed, and then I can put the new parts in that. We'll put it together. These bolts here, they torque in at I believe the book said 35 foot-pounds. I will recheck that before I finish it, but 35 foot-pounds on those. So I'll put that together, and then to put it back in the tractor, I'm gonna run a chain through these square holes so I can hang it from my cherry picker, and I'm not gonna manhandle that in there. I'll end up tearing things up. That's too heavy to try to put it in like that. So we'll put you up on the tripod, and we'll get busy, and we'll let Jaden give you some nice music to listen to, so you all can go to sleep on me, and let's get some work done. Okay, you guys got hot again. I'm not sure, but I put you over here on this side in the fans breeze, so maybe it won't get hot now. I'm gonna try something a little different. I guess removing this piece is not gonna be the easiest because there's a snap ring and stuff in there. So I'm gonna bolt that back. I'm gonna pull these bolts out on the sides and remove these pins, and I can remove these arms. Then maybe I can let it all swing down. So we're gonna put some of it back together. Okay, got it down. This is where there's one washer there, it looks like. There wasn't much left of that seal, so I think I made a good call on that. That's got a bushing there too. I did get a replacement bushing. I'm not sure if I'll need to use them or not. That will be determined later. But anyways, I guess now I'll wipe my hands down and we will try to put that diff back together. So let's get busy on that. Okay, we're gonna put these back together now. Just like so. Now this time, instead of, I'm going to run this chain through, and what the purpose of this is so I can lift it with my cherry picker, because this probably weighs, I don't know, 100 pounds, 80 pounds. By running that chain through there, I can lift it with a cherry picker. So, and then I can easily slide it out afterwards. Okay, these torque to 135 pounds, so, or excuse me, 35 pounds. So let me go get my torque wrench. There's that. Well, I've got that all done. So now we're just waiting on seals to show up. When I get seals for that, I can start putting things back together. So this is going to be one long video. The next time you see this video, we're just going to just keep trucking on it till it's done. I'm just going to piece a bunch of videos together and make one long one out of it. I don't know, maybe an hour long, maybe 2 hours long. We'll see. But anyways, we will be right back working on it here in just a few seconds. Bye-bye. Okay, the load shaft is done. We've got the hitch all back up. The case is all cleaned out. So we are ready to drop the differential back down in the case. So let's get busy with that. I gotta move them jack stands forward so they don't interfere with the legs on the cherry picker. One last visual, just make sure she's all clean in there. Trying to figure out where I want to put the camera here. Y'all can see that good enough? Maybe we put you right here. we got the side bearing here to put on this piece here. It's got the race in it that the bearing rides on, and it's got, I believe this side had 5 shims. One side had 4, the other side had 5. But we're gonna put that on now. Now I'll have to read in the book to make sure, but I think I read in there earlier that that was torqued to 85 foot-pounds. I'll double check that before I do it. Now we got to put the one in on this side. It's probably too close. It sets you on this little stool. They're not torqued in yet, but the differential is now in there. So let's go ahead and take the chain loose. Get the cherry picker out of our way. And see, now I can just slide this chain out of the differential. Doing this one-handed is a bit of a trick. That's out of the way. Differential's in there. Now we just need to put in our oil pump tubes. Finish torquing this up. I got one more bolt to put in here. It's got a square-headed nut that goes on the inside. I'm not sure why they did that. As soon as I get them torqued, oil tubes in, we can focus on working on sliding that thing back in. Is that going to be a rodeo? Can I do it? Put it in the comments if you think I can do it or not. I'm not sure I can. I might be calling for help. I don't know. So, anyways, I know I've been told by a buddy that, so this is your disc brake. We'll just lift it off and set it to the side. The new sun gear. And then this is the other side of your brakes. You got 3 here. That works off hydraulics. These here will push out against this disc. And of course the disc will float on that sun gear and push in against these. Now these are on a big heavy cast plate that weighs about 40 pounds. I mean, they just lay there. Now, I say lay there because this is down on the floor. Over here, it's going to have to sit on there, and I'm going to have to somehow balance a 40-pound piece of cast with the disc brake and the sun gear in there, and keep a gasket on all these holes, and then get that sun gear to hit that hole as I slide it together. Yeah. I've been thinking about that 40-pound piece that sits here. If maybe I can take silicone and put a dab of silicone all around here and put that up there and kind of like use that silicone, put some clamps on here to hold it. Maybe that silicone, that piece is never going to move. Once this is all together, that'll be there permanent. I mean, it doesn't float. The disc is what floats, that piece there. But that piece of cast is never going to go nowhere. And so I was kind of hoping the silicone would help kind of keep that glued up to it and not try to fall off as I'm sliding things together. Put it in the comments if that's safe to do that or not. If the silicone the little drops of the silicone would work its way out and get into the hydraulic system, it could gum things up. I mean, it could get caught in here and get smeared on my disc brakes. I would wait till it set up and was hard before I started sliding it together. I don't know. I mean, if you look at the gears, they've been wearing good. Let me get my flashlight here. Where'd it go? They've been wearing, you know, I don't see anything majorly bad, just general wear and tear. And down there's the pinion, and none of that looks super bad. Kind of hard to see in the light, but so I'm just going to trust that they had that all adjusted correctly the first time. This has been apart before, but I don't have anything to check preload with at the moment. So I'm just gonna have faith that they had it together the right way. We will get busy and get those torqued. I had them pretty tight already. Okay, got those torqued. Now we just need to put in the oil tubes, and I know I've got two of them here. We got the old one that got scrunched, and we have a new one. And to be honest with you, right now I'm not remembering how that came out. Okay, that's what I thought. That there goes in the end of the pinion gear. But then where does it go to up here? I think it rode in this. Yeah, just like so. So I've got to somehow get this down. Got that in. Got that in. Oh, it just all went together. Imagine that. So there's special bolts that hold them in, and I've had them right here, so I wouldn't lose track. They're different lengths. This one went on this side. I should say top and bottom, but the longer one goes down in the bottom, I believe. No, the longer one's going to go up here. The shorter one's going to go down there. Am I right or am I wrong? I think I had them mixed up. Well, I'm not sure what these would torque at. I'm going to have to see if I can find them. If I can find my little 1/2 inch. I think a socket wrench will be better for that bottom one. I couldn't find anywhere in there where it was talking about any torque. We're just gonna make sure she's tight. Okay, that ain't going nowhere. Okay, we have got it all together as far as the differential goes. We got the oil tubes in, got the new one in, everything's been torqued, both sides. Yes, I did put the bearings together dry, but this holds 11 gallons of hydraulic fluid. I'm going to fill it up with fluid, and we're going to rotate these wheels in here in the air with no load on it. Everything's going to get lubricated good before she goes out and does anything serious, so I'm not too worried about it. That fluid comes through this reservoir, and this reservoir fills up. Them bearings will get oil from both sides, so we'll be good. I ain't worried about it. So we will catch you later. I know it's been a while since that last video. I just had truck things going on. I have a full-time job driving truck, big truck, so we just do these things when we have the extra time. So maybe next weekend I can get out here and we can finish sliding this all together on this side. We'll just take it one step at a time, see what happens. But like I was saying earlier, someone leave it in the comments. Is it going to be okay to glue that piece up with silicone to kind of just temporarily hold it in place, or is that a bad idea? So anyway, this is just a piece of rebar laying there. So we will catch you all later. Have a great week.